all jumping at once, everybody. I'll go. Let's see. How do you view or define safe space? What is your safe space?
Oh my God.
We're just jumping right in.
I don't believe in safe space outside of like my bedroom, because it's a space that is just mine and mine alone. But I typically don't believe in safe space, and I don't like to go into places assuming that I will experience safety when other people are around.
I can feel that. I don't like putting my safety in other people's hands. So my bed, my things, my life. That's my safe space, sanctuary.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing someone once refer to it as a safer space, which I found myself connecting to because I don't think I agree with you, Aaron, 100%. Whenever someone else comes into your space, there is an inherent chance where it may not be a safe space anymore. So what would a safer space look like? Who can help you create a safer space?
Yeah.
Actually, a really good article written about that by Melissa Harris Perry after the Post situation. She was talking about how like black hetero women used to go into gay clubs thinking they were safe spaces for them, and then after the Post nightclub situation, how she like that was the first time she realized that for her gay friends that they don't even have safe spaces, and that they were using like our spaces as their spaces to get away from catcalling and things that they had to deal with hetero men, and then she was like, well, damn, like where do any of us go? Because like now they don't even have a safe space, and like how do we even ensure their safety when we were actually using their spaces? So I'm kind of with you, like what is a safe space besides like your home? And then for some of us our home isn't
Right.
I don't like the fish in the club.
You say what?
I don't like the fish in the club.
I knew somebody was
They
gonna
be
say
doing too much with the
bachelorette party. I was just about to say that, the bachelorette party.
Touching you and want to be
It feels very exploitive, right?
It does.
Yeah.
I be like, get it on my face, girl.
That's my experience with the boys in the clubs as well. The gawking, the touching, the thinking because I got dressed or put myself together that is literally for the consumption of the men in the space. So I would say it's all a mess. It's a mess from every angle.
I mean, I think public spaces are, you have to have a baseline of what safety is, but it's always going to be either the people who own that space or the majority of the people in it, right? So I think of like literal safe spaces, I would say I don't have any. And considering the work I do, I don't think I should. I should be in spaces that are relatively unsafe at times because that's how I would learn. Particularly because I have like resources that people who are at greater levels of vulnerability don't. So I should be in those spaces.
I was in a situation recently in my own home where I spoke out because someone was calling someone, a pronoun that I didn't understand, and I realized, I was like, oh, I'm going to talk about this after this person leaves. So then I just challenged myself to actually confront it in the moment. But I was like shaking, like I was talking about, I was like shaking because it's a muscle. It's something that you have to push past over and over again, I think, for it to be like second nature, if you will. So
in that regard, like were you in that space where someone like was addressing someone by the incorrect pronoun?
Yes.
And so
repeatedly, excessively from my take.
I find myself like sometimes in that scenario, for instance, especially when I'm with like another trans individual, right? And they might not be like out, or they might be like bold enough to like go and correct people about the pronouns, right? And so if like for instance a cis person or whatever the case may be comes into the space with us, and we can be hanging out in my house, right? And they consistently like misgender this person, right? I sometimes find it weird how to navigate that space where it's like you're not fully like out there and you don't want to acknowledge your identity, right? But at the same time I know it's bothering you, and I know like they're invalidating your identity, and I never know like how to like confront that situation.
At some point it does take us who have like, even if we have like a slither more privilege than a particular subgroup within us, it is for us to step up and say something.
I hope people are coming.
And like So this morning coming here, like I found myself having a moment where I felt unsafe, but also I wanted to be intimate in this particular moment. It was so nuanced because so many things were happening. We were outside, and my husband came up, and he just wanted to like just kiss me, and so I kissed him. But at the same time, I had a moment where I was like, I don't feel comfortable doing this right here on this corner in this space. That I don't know this area at all. But at the same time, like this is someone who I love, and we always have these moments. So like, how do I navigate that? Because I know survival is real as well.
Oh.
Oh my God, I hate that one.
Okay.
No shade.
Just pick within the deck, darling. Just pick within the deck.
Let's see. Oh my God.
She's
Okay.
gagging at every single one.
Maybe you should have
Would you
picked a
like to pick a
question.
question? Look, it's like,
Pick this. I
would you
think
like
this
to
is
pick
your
a-
color. I think that's your color.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, see? I knew it.
I'm still gonna ask the first one. I'm
Okay.
sorry. They're all gonna gag me. I just needed to be clear of that from this moment. Okay, everyone. What are some of your dating pet peeves?
We should define what dating is.
I don't
Yeah.
Not today.
Yeah. I mean, what is dating? So before we get there, what is dating in 2018?
Actually, that used to be one of my pet peeves. Like,
Yeah.
that people who. There was an article in the New York Times that this generation is too. Going out one-on-one with somebody is too much of an emotional burden. So. There's a study that this professor did, right, with her students on campus, and they're like, well, hanging out makes it easier, or inviting somebody with a group of friends, so it takes away that kind of like anxiety that you have to sit and actually talk to somebody. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like I don't date you with my friends. So I think like that was one of my pet peeves when I was dating somebody who could not really say, yeah, this is a date.
I just got out of
Situation.
it was a relationship.
Okay.
I thought I was gonna
Are
marry
we
this
cueing the
man.
violin?
You know, but I didn't know that I was dating him. You know, we went from fucking to like, I don't know whether you can curse or not, but we went like, we went from fucking on the regular, right? Fucking occasionally, then fucking on the regular, and then we showed up at like a gathering. You know, and I brought other friends with me that I was also fucking, you know.
Wow,
so
work out.
and I'm that type of girl.
Me and my hair, I'm at the gala.
But listen, backyard barbecue, and he flipped. He flipped that I was not standing at his side, to only find out later in that night that he thought we were dating, right? So I think the definition of dating varies for person. Like, we use the best channels to communicate with the people that we care about, but I think the larger conversation is, what are the expectations around dating? How do you show up in this this courting of one another? Like, what does consistency look like? What does going on dates look like? What does communication look like? And I think that it looks very different, because I even remember my first relationship happened on the party line. So I thought we were boyfriends. Yes, baby, I was on that line. On that line, had the men's, honey, had the men's. But like,
party lines.
yeah, that was my boyfriend. Like, we called each other up. Yes, and then it was Black Planet, and then Adam for BGC. Then Adam for Adam. Now Jacked. And then
I'm too young for all of this.
And Instagram
And
and,
now
direct messages and Twitter. I mean, like, there's so many vehicles that a person can get to you if a person wants to get to you now. And so,
I hate
And
it.
yet people ghost.
and then people ghost.
oh yeah.
Hearing you all talk, I think I'm my dating pet.
Gotta get in on these questions.
Yeah, pick that.
Work. From the middle of the stack.
Oh, okay.
What advice would you give your younger queer self?
Oh my God.
I could tell myself to like reach out for help, because I feel like when you're in that kind of young void, you feel like there is no community and you're so alone. You know, especially prior to like having all these resources where you can just Google and like bang, it's like this whole community and stuff, where to go and how to access and all that, right? And I think just like telling myself, yeah, like you can reach out to people and there's gonna be people out there that are gonna want to help you, right? And you're not alone in this. I grew up as, transitioning for me was a very lonesome like experience, just identifying and then going through that and then like getting to the point where I can be like, okay, am I accepting my transness, right? And once I do this, like what do I do with this while I'm sitting with it, right? And it looks like, okay, now I'm counting all the people that I want to leave, right, in my past, because I know they're not going to be able to walk with me in this journey, right? But if I would have just reached out sooner to like people and knew that they would accept me, I think it would have just been a much faster catalyst for like where I am now, for sure. Yeah.
Every time I get that, I've gotten that question. I get that question a lot, and that's the one thing, like, that you were right. Everything you felt was right. Everything you knew about yourself was right. Everything they tried to deny you was right. Oh, and I would have told myself that It Gets Better tag that they had put out back then was bullshit. Every time I hear that It Gets Better, it's like, who is telling anybody that? Like, I don't even know who decided that was like the campaign that they was gonna run for the gays all back then. Like, it gets better. I remember those.
It's like you're suffering now, but
no, I don't think. I think it was a way. No, it was a way. My problem was it was a way for them not to fix structures, and it was a way for them to not create safety. It was a way for them to put the burden back on us. And it was like, don't put the burden on me that it gets better if I just keep living, because that's not the case for some of us. Like, for some of us, it didn't get better; it got worse.
Do you think there's more appreciation or appropriation of LGBTQ culture in media, and why?
I just heard Nene just yell, like, yeah, like across the room. I mean, I think,
That annoys so.
I think we understand.
There's a great co-option. Yeah,
we create
definitely.
culture.
Yeah, but we're not often seen as fit to be in front or driving, or like actively or visibly driving the culture, even though it definitely is just like sucking from the teat of the community. But I would say even within the LGBTQ community, there is appropriation of identity, of struggle. I think even with like the larger LGBT community, like that is more based in whiteness and money and things like that, there's a way that people of color within the LGBT community are used as firewood almost for their culture or to advance their culture or their narratives or their understanding of who we are in relation to the community. So, it's all a mess. That's my that's my thought for everything today. It's all a mess.
I don't know. I guess some people do like show appreciation. I mean, I think it's a line, so it's like but right. And again, I think there was an episode this year on Housewives where Derek J called out Nene about like the bring your gay friend. Well, I don't remember how she worded it, but
bring a gay. It was
and he was like, I know you didn't mean any harm by this, but he was like, we're not like persons. Like, we're not.
Yeah, there's definitely some accountability for people like Nene who have like, sort of like have utilized that for their platform. But I think in that case, I do think like sometimes that I think we can be a little sensitive.
Fuck
when
that. Nene is a cis heterosexual woman with a husband and 2 kids. She intentionally said bring a gay, and it's not to say I laugh. I love Nene is my favorite housewife, which is why I feel so comfortable reading her. Because she tries it on the regular. So that is her shtick. And I think as far as appropriation goes, I would say aesthetically, there's an aesthetic that Black trans women have had for decades now that is being co-opted, I would say, by the love and hip hop crowds, by just popular culture, the long hair, the drag beats, the big titties and no waists and asses and all of these cartoony types of looks that are now on the mainstream and now being held as like beautiful, even though trans women have had to deal with being called fake and phony and caricatures for all this time. It's now literally the look. Next case.
Big one.
I probably shouldn't say
Ooh.
these.
Have you experienced workplace discrimination because of your sexual or gender identity?
Oh my God, totally yes.
Mm.
Sure, yeah.
Can you share some more?
Yeah, I'm
Did we
like,
just have a whole situation?
Listen.
you want to spill?
Yeah, I would say I was fired because a man, not just because of my gender identity or sexual preference or anything, but I would say I got fired because I had to answer to a man that wanted me to perform like subservience in a certain way that I don't understand. And also I had to deal with literally having to explain why I was saying things to someone all the time because the assumption was literally always that I was coming from a negative or angry place.
In a lot of my workspaces, both as a freelancer, but even when I was showing up to 9 to 5s, white folks, accepted me as their own, right? Because of how I showed up, right? Being like light skinned and even how I talk, walk, dress, they accepted me as their own, except the times I spoke up. It was like, oh, we know you black now.
I was gonna bring it up like that because there's a social aspect of work, right? And so it's like for us, like when Trayvon Martin gets murdered, or like when Sandra Bland gets murdered or something, and like if you're working at an organization, like everybody's talking about those things at the water cooler and all those type of things. But for us, when trans people get murdered, or like when Giovanni Melton gets murdered, we don't get to show up in that space and be upset, and we don't get to, when a trans military ban happens and you have to go to work that day, and like that's the main headline, and you got all these things. A trans person doesn't get to show up at work and discuss their discourse with what's happening on a macro level, and their coworkers aren't invested the same way they're invested when and because, and there's the other thing I was going to say, they literally are watching what's happening on that level and then making decisions on, well, if we can do it this high, then we know we can do it this low.
Okay, so how about for the last one?
Just pick two you like.
Or how about like we all pick a card and just like answer, like one person answer? No? Okay. Pick one.
I'm like,
I
that
will
was just
pick.
me.
Just pick one.
Why do you think there is pressure to blend in society, being the trade or passing?
I don't know what passing would be.
Oh, see, this is a good
Right?
question.
Like I know I've never been traded.
But I think it's more than
is.
that.
Oh, that's a good. That's his.
Well, it's even beyond that.
No, I know what passing
you know what
means,
pass-
but
like-
what I'm saying is that I've never.
Were you ever clocked?
Yeah,
On
yeah.
the street?
I feel like I'm gay. Like I've never like passed. I've never.
But have you ever been in a space where you didn't want to be clocked, but you were clocked?
The fact that y'all are using clock is hilarious.
Listen.
Like I'm in a fraternity, so when I was trying to get down, I was like, I gotta figure this out. Right? I was like, I gotta figure this out because I've been gay my whole life. Like, so it was like,
Listen, I
like,
bet you were.
man, you lied. What did you do? Fake it till you make it.
What'd you do?
You gotta. What do you mean? Like I had to lie that I was not gay. Like listen, like
accent?
yes, absolutely. Would you try
Not
to?
the Kappas.
No, I'm not a Kappa.
Okay, because then nobody would belong. But
Such disrespect.
The scandal.
But
I have no ties to any of these spaces. I don't know. I think when, in regards to trans people, it's more loaded, if you will, passing, because it's always, it centers us not being who we say we are. So the idea is like, oh my God, you really pass for a woman or a Decepticon or whatever the hell people want to call us these days. But the idea is always that because you're not. So if you look this way, that's amazing because you're not actually this thing that you embody or that you live your life as. So I think for us, it isn't often, I think from cis people, the conversation is clearer than it is for trans people around what is passing versus like what is being stealth. Because I think being stealth makes more sense to me as a trans person than saying, oh, she passes. It's like she might keep her business completely to herself, or he might keep his business completely to himself.
Absolutely.
And that's not because he's passing, it's because it's his damn business, and he wants to be able to get from point A to point B and do what he has to do without having to answer or be a trans token or be whatever it is that people require or request of us. But I think in moments where you could speak out and you don't, I think it goes back to just safety. Like, how safe do I feel to be honest in this group, in this space, or whatever. I think even in this conversation, I've been like, how trans am I going to be during this conversation? Like, do I even feel like being like the black trans woman on the table at the brunch? Like, can I just talk about things loosely? Or are people going to say, we wanted to hear more from your black trans woman perspective, you know? I think it's just about deciding how comfortable you are and how safe you actually do feel. But that's just me. I mean, I guess you could.
So I kind of feel like a similar position now. Like, I've gone from not being able to like have the experience of not having to disclose my identity to now like fully passing, right? It's like usually when I like disclose my transness and I like to do it only when I feel it's appropriate, right? In that kind of setting, I get a lot of like, whoa, hey, and then it comes like, usually when I'm around cis people, like 10 intrusive questions of like, how do I navigate? Oh my god, since when? Like, how do you have a beard? Blah blah blah, right? Like, literally, I get the most basic kinds of questions, and because of that, and because I've experienced it in the most inappropriate settings, right? Like from workplace to just social to like literally everywhere, I've chosen to kind of just like not disclose my identity unless I feel a need to, and some people can consider that living as stealth and whatnot. Sure.
But it's not about blending in for you.
I mean, at first, right, it's it's exactly what you described, right? Like, cis people in words will look at it as like, oh, they're trying to fit in and stuff, but it's like, I already feel this way, right? It's like, I'm not turning from a female to a male. I am a male. I was a male. I was always a male, right? So kind of shifting that narrative, it's like, I'm presenting myself in a way that I've always felt, and that's true to me, and maybe this is now a way more like appropriate or like socially acceptable way to be received by society, right? Because now it's like you can correlate my masculinity with my identity, and it feels weird for me now, right? Because I sometimes come off as a very like hetero cis kind of normative person. I'm like, oh, so where does my queerness lies, and who do I get to share that with? I feel like I'm almost like, it feels like I'm losing an identity, right?
That's so real.
But also like my sexuality has opened up now, right? Like prior to T, I feel like I would have been like, no, I can only date like and sleep with women, and now I'm like, no, I'm totally like not like a hetero person. At all.
You.
So my identities have completely and sexuality has changed.